number one, when you travel, always bring a swimsuit. Rule number one, no matter where you're going. You'll be going to, Alaska, bring a swimsuit.
In case you run out of underwear.
You never know. You might need it. No, that's just
I thought it was always bring a towel when you travel.
no. I would bring a towel. Stay early now.
What'd you say?
You know you're in a bad hotel. You know you're in a bad hotel when they have paper towels. Where's my rib shot? Thank you.
It'll be your own. Friendly.
Yes. Tip your waitress. Waiter tipper.
Stay for the fights later on.
All right.
We're waiting on Jameer Tatum and Brina. I suppose they could take. I don't have hers over there. Are we 302?
Well, I have a question for you guys. Is there any questions you guys want a chance to ask us in our previous 8,000 mails that we did? Is there something that we did not answer for you that you want to ask? Yes, Mr. Pat. What? Okay, I'm sure we can start as well as direct mails. We can start since talk to our bookie and can't be bothered. Hi, husband. Tell my business, so. Okay, we'll take this time to introduce ourselves and mention what we directed. First, let me take this microphone.
Okay. Because then when they get in, they can introduce themselves.
Well, of course. Thank you. I'm Richard Epcar, for those of you who have no clue. And I've directed a lot of stuff over the years. I started directing actually stage plays. That was a long time ago. But I started directing a feature film called Captain Schemmel. That's what kind of got me started on all this stuff. And from there I did Swiss Family Robinson. Then I got into directing a lot of live action films, a lot of Academy Award movies like Cinema Parody, so Green Woman, and some Master, things like that. And then I got into directing a lot of anime series like Wayland, Fighting Spirit, Live on the Third, Naked View. And then now I'm directing a lot of games, like Star Wars 1 and 2, and some other games I can't remember right now, but Blue Dragon is one of them. But I've directed a lot of stuff over the years, and it's really fun. I get to direct myself, which is always nice, because being a director doesn't have to get along really well. So we always agree on everything. So anyway, that's my background in directing.
I'm Schemmel, and I no longer direct, but when I was directing, I directed the first two volumes of Oh My Goddess, Midori Days, Space Pirate Mito, Saga to the Destroyer, the last volume of Berserk. What else did I do? I'm trying to think, it's been so long. Nana 707, and it's most of them. Oh, The Weathering Continent, and that's pretty much it. But I thought I was running panels. I used to straight doing this, so might be able to share something. I don't know.
Alright. I'm Tom Wayland, and I've been doing this for a while. I've directed, a lot of stuff. I directed a lot of things for Central Park Media back in the day when I used to work for them. A couple of pretty cool shows I worked on, like Alien 9, was really neat, and I did that animated Ichi the Killer, the prequel thing, which is pretty hardcore. I worked on World of Norway, huge show, and I directed a lot of stuff for kids as well. I did Yugi Power and Magic Do Re Mi, and I used to do shit for them. So I also directed like a little bit of G.I. Joe, and a little bit of Winx, and I've been directing Pokemon for the last 3.5 years. That's right. Pika Pika. And you're on. And I also directed a lot of non-anime stuff, a ton of animation, a lot of foreign animation, but some also original American stuff, which has been pretty cool. A lot of live action dubbing, Turkish soap operas, starring him. Oh yeah. So I've been busy. So that's me.
Brina.
Hi, I'm Brina.
Wow.
And I'm ADR directed School Rumble, last 8 episodes of Moon Phase, the
we're the only people at the time of any directing experience worth hearing about.
Some people are coming up with it. They claim they were
Oh, wait.
Bite me, Wayland.
Ah.
Also, I love the baby.
Business is irritated.
Schemmel, I swear to God. We're gonna like an ass kicking right on the stage. It's gonna be awesome.
Introduce yourself. We've been introducing ourselves.
My name is Chris Ayres, ADR director for, oh gosh, 80 films, Newsweek Media, Seraphim Digital Studios. Yeah.
Cool.
Jim Michael Tatum, director of Funimation. Projects I've worked on have been, let's see, Aquarium, Romeo and Juliet, Rhythm Dogs of the Mountain. I've also done a little bit of directing on Big Blind Up, and She's Lonnie Ewing.
Oh, it's for still with you. Okay.
They know where you grew up.
Nerman Daikon Brothers, second season of The Wallflower, Mermaid Melody, Chitch, Magicano's, Xenosaga Animation.
Without me.
I don't. That broke my heart, Richard.
That broke my heart too.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story.
Yeah, we will.
Sad family. All right, so everyone introduce themselves. Do you have any questions for us about directing? You have one first.
How do you know exactly, like, when you're directing, how to get the most out of each person that you're working with, and how much control do you have over the process after everyone's done writing? You've already seen that it was essentially a whole thing, probably writing, music, and voice, and all that's left to really do is down and cut.
Well, all right. So what, you're asking all of us this question? Yeah.
Well, it varies from project to project, and it also varies on who your producer is.
True.
Some producers have a very active hand in what you do. Some take a very hands-off approach. I will say that the stuff that we do in Houston, we don't edit anything. We can't change any of it. We don't rotoscope anything. We don't make any changes like that. I think the most important thing, if I'm following the question, I'm very tired, so I may not be, is that, and I think this is for all of us, our job is essentially to be the caretaker of someone else's creation. And we have to honor that. So, we do have to occasionally make changes to the script, the ADR script that we direct, in order to make it fit flaps and make it look good. But every director with their soul that I know tries to keep the original creator's intent in their head when they're having their business. That probably didn't answer the question. Okay.
Yeah, and then as far as how to get the right performance, I mean, was one of your question. To me, it really just depends on who the actor is. And knowing what their background is, and knowing what they respond to, a stage or film actor, they would be, you could say certain things to them differently than you can to someone who has never done music at all. Or with a musician, you can be more specific as far as, posting the voice and all that. But that's as far as ADR directing. As far as music directing, which is what I do primarily now, my job is just to take the English translation of the Japanese and adapt it rhythmically to the song. Because most of the time, it's like half the amount of syllables in the translation that's needed to make it actually sound good. So I do that while trying to keep the original as much as possible. And when they use random English words, it's harder for me sometimes to try to make sure that I can put in the template. And then I also pick the singer. And it's kind of the same thing. I've had to direct a lot of non-singers on character songs, and it can be really hard. That's actually, I think, my favorite part of it. It's just sort of actually, it's kind of like having a voice lesson and sort of teaching people how to sing. It's really fun.
I think, first of all, the most important thing a director can have is good communication skills. And I think that unfortunately, a lot of directors don't. And they may have in their head what they want, but they don't know how to Chris was saying, when you're doing a dubbing project, you do have to kind of remain true to the project and what the original creation is. I've had the good fortune to be able to direct some original animated films and things like that, and that's wonderful, because then you just have a clean slate, you go in and play with the actors, and it's really a lot of fun to do that. So.
I just want to see if I can answer all. You get several questions, and they're all very good questions. I just want to make sure I get it right. I agree with all my colleagues here. I think for me, in terms of you're talking about how much control you have after it's in your hands, that's a really good question because in producing such the studio, I also did the studio work. In the studio I worked at, which is NYB Post, we had a very small staff. It was me and Michael for a while, and so I was, essentially producing myself. And making a lot of creative decisions. But as far as how much control you have, to give you an example, I adapted a lot of the script myself, and when they started doing writing, they hired a writer, and it was good, but I was directing the show, and I was changing every single line as we went. And I had that kind of latitude, because I just didn't like it. I mean, the writer's fine writer, I just didn't agree with it. As far as acting and being the best type of actor, when I first started, I made a mistake a lot of directors make, is I kind of made it my own vision, and I kind of really directed everything the way I wanted to hear it. And then I realized, one, I was working too hard, and two, my shows were one note. So what I mean was everybody sounded like how I would act. So then I kind of, thought about it, and I grew as a director, and I made this what I call the 80% rule, which is, if it's up to a certain standard, if it's below a certain standard, I'm gonna still focus on my vision. Once it gets above a certain standard, and I'm like, it's good, yes, because I'm letting the talent bring into, I don't want it to suck. Once it gets good enough, if you let your talent bring their view to it, then you have a show that's greater than the sum of its parts.
Absolutely.
And that's so important because my shows got better, and I worked less hard because I'm not trying to so make it that. I'm like, show me what you got. And when I start, I wouldn't start directing that way, but I mean, kind of my attitude. And a lot of times I'll take the first take. If it's just visceral and reactive, and it's a good actor, and given the right direction. I totally agree with Richard about communication. And sometimes you want to give less communication. I'm directing sometimes, give a lot of background, and they don't need that. Or sometimes they do, and then you have to direct the cue again. Sometimes you just want to say, do exactly what you did, hit this word harder. Or sometimes you got to go back and say, oh, no. Here's the emotional content. Here's what's going on in the storyline. The other thing that's really hard for dubbing directors, I'm sure you all agree with me, is that we haven't heard the whole show once the first guy's recording. So as other people come in, you've got to keep the vision of how all the dialogue connects together so it sounds like we're talking to each other. Because you only have one part, then the next part, and then as it comes together at the end, then it starts to make sense. You got between session and session, you got to make sure you keep all that in your head. So I do a lot of review over, is that going to fit? Is that going to fit? And then after it's all done, we review again. And then after that, if I want to do pickups, there's that. So I hope that I had a lot of control when I was directing. I mean, probably too much. I got in trouble a few times because I kind of just, I'm the kind of director that's like, yeah, we'll do that. I'm like, oh, sorry, it's late. Oh, this is all I can do. Which is not a good thing to do. I got in trouble for that. But then I competed with myself there.
To tie in real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
To tie in real quick.
Sure.
I love the collaborative aspect.
Yeah.
And I will say this, 90% of what is wonderful in shows that I've directed has been an actor going, I think I got a better one.
Yeah.
Anytime an actor thinks they've got something that is going to be better, I think 9 times out of 10 they're right.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
But their headspace is really in character, especially if you've been playing a character a long time. And your headspace is in all the characters, So it really helps to let them bring their talent to the table. And that's really important.
That's a good director to let your actors do that. It's not all directors do that.
Cast-
We got a little bit of
cast well and trust your
talent. That's why they're called talent.
casting is 80% of it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, the preparation. Having a good script, having good, accurate casting helps very much because then you just let the actors act, let them do their jobs. And as a director, I like to give them as much prep as possible. So like, this is your character, this is who you are, this is what you know, this is what you're doing, this is what's happening in the scene. Go, and then just let them do their thing. And if they're sort of going off course, then nudge them back on course, rather than being too micromanaging with it. And also, see, none of us are the boss. We're all working for somebody when you do this. And a lot of that then depends on who you're working for. In terms of, let's say with anime, how much do you want it to be just like the Japanese? Some want it to be very much just like the Japanese. Some people want to change things, you know? People bitch about 4 kids all the time, whatever. The thing you gotta understand with those programs and what they were doing, they weren't marketing them to you, to anime fans. They were marketing them to a wide audience, middle America. And listen, it's about marketing, it's about money. Anything that seems too foreign, and no offense if you're from the middle of the country, but anything that seems too foreign might scare off people from the middle of the country sometimes. So from a business standpoint, they're like, well, let's change these things. And then if that's what the producers are saying, then that's what you do, you know? And what's that?
If you don't do what the producer's asking you to, then you won't keep working.
Yeah, and you know, and whatever, and it's fine, because they've had tremendous success, but then in like, with other companies who want to keep things very true to the Japanese, the audience that they're marketing it towards, you know, is an audience, and that wants to hear that, you know, so then that's what we do. And, you know, it's, I'm given a lot of leeway to change things if I need to when I'm working with people, even on like Pokemon, and they like things to be, you know, with Pokemon, it's like they want to be true to the Japanese, but Pokemon has a long, deep history in the United States, so these characters are well established here. So there's certain things that were inventions, maybe of the dub that, you know, they want to keep alive, even if it's not necessarily the way it is in the Japanese. But still, I'm given a fair degree of leeway. If something's not working, you know, it's not working, you gotta fix it. On paper, this can look like the greatest line ever. So when you're doing your script reviews and translations and all that stuff, you're like, oh, well, this is funny, we'll leave that. But then when you actually record the thing, it's like, not working. Sometimes you change it for a technical aspect, the line's too short, it's too long, it's whatever. But sometimes it's like, this joke stinks, new joke, you know? And then you put something else in there. One thing that's interesting though with things like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And things that are part of a, because Pokemon's not a TV show. Pokemon is like a multi-headed monster. It's you have the TV show head, you have the video game head, and the card game head. And there's certainly information that needs to be consistent between the three.
They go right together to form.
Exactly. So, but you know, so in an instance like that, if there's a particular cue that is game jargon that is sort of describing a move or something, it's written a particular way and cannot be changed no matter what, because that's how it is in the game, because that's how it is in the cards, you know? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is the same thing. All of that weird, awkward dialogue where you're like, you know, this thing is going to freeze that and minus these points, move this over here and do this. It's like, that's exactly the rule of the game, so you're not allowed to change that stuff. So, you know, it depends on the situation, it depends on who you're working for. Certainly why we all get hired is because we bring something extra to it. We're not there just checking off cues, so our creative input is appreciated, but there are generally a certain set of rules that you need to operate within, and that's what we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said.
Well, to add to that, part of the question I heard was how a director goes about, you know, knowing how to get the right performance out of an actor. And I'd like to speak to that for a moment, because in my experience, I find that in the role of director, the director, in a sense, is an actor. You know, while they're directing, because especially in something like dubbing, where you're recording every single person in utter isolation, where they don't have the luxury of recording and playing off of each other in real time. Often they're recorded weeks apart, and there may be a very intimate scene where it needs to sound like, yes, they're together in the same room. And that's the director's job to make that happen. And part of that is you learn to adapt your own approach depending on who the actor is. Like, you gauge the actor's weaknesses and their strengths. That means on some actors you might be, you know, if it's a very vulnerable role or a very vulnerable scene, I tend to be very humorous with it, just to lighten it up so that they're more comfortable. And that tends to, you know, again, the trust issue that they brought up. You have to have that trust. And they spoke earlier to this idea of some directors, and I don't agree with this approach, have a very specific lead in mind for every single piece of dialogue. And there are some brilliant directors that they're absolutely right, but they're also very rare. a lot of directing, I think, and this was my own problem going into it, the first show I directed, it was really, really difficult to let go of what I thought was right, and, you know, not get so bogged down in the minutia of my own vision that I let the actor no elbow room to contribute. So I came to sort of, I started getting away from the idea of the perfect read, and I would just, I'm like, I would kind of, my own approach was to often explain to the actor, you know, this is how I think the audience should feel, and try to do that, and just sort of trust the actor's instincts to guide them into a read that will respond to that direction. And which means as a director, I leave myself open to being surprised. I love when an actor surprises me. If you give them that freedom, a good actor will do it every time, and bring something to the table that will actually inspire you to be like, wow, I can think about bringing that. That's a really interesting read. That brings out a subtext I hadn't even considered. We can take the scene in a whole direction now. And again, you know, the emphasis is on the fact that it is collaborative.
Yeah.
So no one person has the final say in any of it. You should feel like a team. If you don't, somebody's doing something wrong.
And to add to that, a good friend like Stuart Osher, who's a Broadway producer, gave one of those profound thoughts about directing. He said, you know, because it's collaborative art, your goal as a director should always be the best idea wins. But as the director, you know, you have to be aware that you are not the only person with good ideas, and you have to be the final arbiter of what is going to work.
Right.
And that means you get anything that could work, and then you have to call down. And that way you get everyone working at their creative best. I've always loved that philosophy.
Definitely.
It is.
That was a long answer for one question.
You know, about actors, the different actors is, you know, Tom and I have talked about this a lot. Sometimes you get some actors in there that are very self-directing, meaning you don't gotta say much, they're just awesome. I like those actors quite a bit. And sometimes though, I can say this, one of the first actresses I ever worked with, who is now deceased, and I miss her, she was not an anime voice actress, she was a commercial voice actress, and I had to direct the living snot out of her, but she committed and worked so hard, and she almost didn't get the part, and then she did, and it was her first anime role, and after our first volume, she had a mysterious illness and died, but she was still great, because even though I had to direct the snot out of her, she never gave up, and it wasn't because she was fighting me, she was just wrapping her head around this new deal. So there's some directors, actors you have to really direct hard, and it's really difficult, and it's frustrating, but they have a good voice, and they give you good stuff, and then you have somebody like Stephanie, who was just so earnest about trying, and it was a new role, and it was a new kind of acting for her. And then you have actors like Tom, who I think is a very self-directing actor. Anytime I've ever had to direct him, I'm just like, go!
Well, that's the other thing, it's the prep. It's like, that's with actors who have experience, it's like, let me give you everything that you need to know, so now just go and be this person.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, who's got another question? Take a question. Somebody, well, let's say right up front here. Okay.
What are some of the benefits and challenges of directing yourself?
Oh, benefits and challenges of directing yourself.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's start on this end.
I've had to direct myself in a couple of roles, and to be perfectly honest, I don't like doing it. Sometimes, you know, you have to because circumstances are just such that, you know, whatever. I'll bring up an example. In Romeo and Juliet, I played William, who is not that big of a part, and I did not cast myself in that role. It was my co-director said, no, you've got this part, you're taking it, and that's all there is to it. There's no argument. So I was like, well, I can't disagree with you, I guess. Okay, we need to fill this. So I played it, and on the contracts or the episodes that I worked on alone, it was extremely difficult because I would get, I was never happy with a take. I'd get like 8, 9 takes of everything I did. I'm like, why do I suck for me? Why can I not do this? And, but again, I had to. There was just no choice. It was just the way things played out. In that instance, and I'd like to take this opportunity to segue into something one of
musical.
That's like way the song.
We'll swing in Swedish to each other. My engineer for that show, named Will Short, was really, my recording engineer was really into it, and he sort of became my director when I was in the booth having to direct myself. And it was a testament to, I believe this very firmly, that a good recording engineer to a director is worth their weight in gold, and that was just one example of how it came through for me. Had he not been there, it would have been a far more grueling process than it was. That said, I don't like directing myself. I think it's just, I feel much more comfortable as an actor being directed by someone else and having that communication than if I'm left to my own devices to just communicate with myself. I go on forever. You've heard me talk. So you need someone to kind of round it off for you, and my engineer happened to just kind of take on that role for me in a way, which was really interesting. So the benefits of directing yourself is that, yeah, I don't know if there's many benefits for me personally, but the disadvantage is that it's just really difficult to know when you've gotten it right, because it makes you twice as self-conscious as you are if you were being directed by someone else, or if you really were directing another actor. You're just like, God, I don't know if I can trust myself to know that I've gotten this as good as I can get it, and you just have to sort of keep your fingers crossed. So I don't like directing myself, and I don't recommend it, but sometimes you have to, in which case your engineer is awesome.
See, I have a completely different viewpoint than you do. I really like directing myself. I find that I kind of know exactly what I want, and I get in there and I do it, and there are times when, it's kind of, you have to compartmentalize, and you have to, it's almost like you become schizophrenic when you're in the booth. You do your line as the actor, and then you have a playback, and you listen to it back, and you know if it's right or wrong. You kind of switch hats. You're the actor, you're the director. And for me, I don't have a problem doing it, and I really enjoy doing it. And I would much rather work with myself than with a director that I don't agree with the way he's directing me, which has happened on many shows. And when you're in the booth and you're the actor, you pretty much have to acquiesce to the director, and it's pretty much the director's show. People always say, what's the difference between acting and directing? When you're an actor, you kind of do your part, but when you're the director, you're in charge of all the puzzle pieces and putting it all together. So basically, it's your vision of that project. So, for me, it makes it nice, and it's kind of convenient sometimes when the actors can't show up, or someone's late, or something happens, and you can jump in the booth and work on your part, or and there is that thing about
the scheduling is great.
Yeah, the scheduling is great. Yeah. And you're right about the third eye or the third ear in this case, but sometimes you don't have it. But I think if you, I've kind of done this a long time, and I've kind of trained myself to do it, so I don't have a problem doing it, and I actually enjoy doing it myself. So.
See, and I'm sorry, we're going to look at your best.
It's cool.
I was just going to say, because I'm the exact opposite of Richard, and I've talked about this before. Because of my theater background, and I come from a really hardcore theater background, and I would never direct myself on stage. I never would.
I don't think I would on stage.
And that's my whole training base. I may step in and do a 3 or 4 line bit part. But, and in Xenosaga, my producer insisted that I play Jet. He's like, well, the only actor we have who's right for Jet.
You just want to
No.
I did Ziggurat A in the games, and we recorded a lot of that. Thank you. And Krista and Nathan, I tried to get word out to him that I was very interested in wanting to do the part in the series.
And he actually thought word had reached us, and we were just ignoring it. And the person that he had asked to let us know never told anyone at the studio. And then I heard that he was upset, and I was like, because I would love to have had it. I really would have.
Really? That's not what you told me.
No, but I'm a person, I won't direct myself. On that show, when my producer insisted I play that role, then I insisted my producer come in and direct me. It is completely against every bit of training I have as an actor and a director. And I appreciate people that can do it, and I will never say anyone is wrong in anything they do. It's just, it's not something that I even want to go into.
Yeah.
I don't mind it so much. It is really nice schedule-wise, because people do just all the time have to cancel or whatever, and then it's either you're representing or you can jump in and do stuff. I do tend to take a lot longer directing myself than someone else would directing me. So I actually tend to prefer someone else to direct me. Especially the thing that I hate doing is directing myself on a show that I am not directing. And then, if the director had to, had something come up to where they couldn't make it to my session, because I've directed before, they'll just be like, hey, just direct yourself, you'll be fine. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this show. How am I supposed to do this? Yeah, but I really do, I love directing myself on songs, because I've been told multiple
Yeah, that's my
But I'm always surprised when people are like, yeah, that looks great. I'm like, really? Because I was totally flat on that one note. Like, that's the only note that was flat on the entire song. Like, well, we should probably do it again. So it's actually tends to be easier to do
It's
that.
a lot like working with Carly on anything musically. She said, there was a note that I was under like a minor third, and I'm like, really?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
Yeah, it really is. I just pulled a minor third out of my
That
head.
would be the wrong one.
Because she maybe just slightly left. But I complimented Brina earlier on my panel. I'm going to say it again. I worked with Brina as a sub-director on a show that she really didn't know that well. And we've all had a sub-direct, haven't we? Where someone just step in.
I have, yeah, so my health system director, yeah, I can do that.
And I love working with you because you worked the same way I do as a sub-director. You go in, you don't do the show, and I think on Birdie, we got about 7 takes for every single line. And they were completely different reads, and anywhere from 4 to 7 on some of them.
Yeah.
And that way when the director came in, he had a palette of choices to choose from. And when I sub-direct, that's what I do. I will give the director as many different reads as I can so that it's not my call. It is always the director's call.
Yeah, and I think also with assistant directing, because I assistant direct on Dragon Ball Kai a lot, and all of you guys have done those, have been living that show way longer than I have, and so I
think you
tend
should
to
figure it
defer.
out.
No, literally, yeah. I used to watch it. But yeah, so I just tend to defer to the actor in that case, you know, because I mean, how long has it been?
So, well, I started in 99.
Yeah.
99?
It's been like 11 years.
What do you believe?
Yeah, so you kind of have to, in that case, always trust the actor, because they will definitely know.
You know, for me, as far as self-direction goes, the advantages are scheduling, I agree. The disadvantages are controlling Pro Tools when in the booth, because when we had such a shoestring budget, I had to set the wireless keyboard and then go in the booth.
So you were the engineer.
Oh, I engineered all my shows. I engineered all my shows. And when I'm self-directing, I'm doing both. And so your brain, it's weird, 'cause when you're doing your brain's going, you can feel your brain going between left and right brain. It's like Pro Tools, logic, back to emotion. Pro Tools, logic, back to emotion. It's a really weird process. So it's really hard. And I'd be in the studio like 3 or 4 in the morning by myself in the booth, going, what the hell am I doing? And especially we're doing Silence to Destroyer. And by the way, this also bleeds into the topic of self-casting. And I think most of the directors here probably don't like the self-cast. Neither do I, meaning cast yourself in a role. I happen to cast myself in a role because I could not find anybody to play this robot part the way I wanted to play it. And so I played this robot part, which actually had a bunch of dialogue for Silence of the Destroyer. So luckily it was a short series, 13 episodes. That's not my heard too, Richard. Silence to the Destroyer. And I had to play this robot guy. It takes place in West Hollywood. And he gets a helmet, he gives the guy magic powers, and you're in the booth doing the lines, and you don't have that objectivity. And the thing I like about it though is that I get to do what I want. And nobody says, hey, I don't like that read. I don't like that read. I go, I like that read. It's great. And you know, as far as about being OCD, I'm OCD when it comes to music stuff. When it comes to, I'm totally picky about music. When it comes to, I've kind of a wabi-sabi attitude toward directing. Like, some people are really tight about non-collab. Wabi-sabi is kind of a Japanese word. It loosely, artistically means perfect imperfection. And so I like it when the flap is a little loose, and I like it when the acting's a little loose and not so diction perfect, because when we're all talking here, that's how we sound. So I don't want it, I like it to be a little more natural, and sometimes things sound natural, but still acted, and so I'll be okay with funny pronunciation sometimes, or maybe the flap goes over a little bit, as long as it doesn't distract, because when you're watching something, I will go for a better read that sounds natural, that doesn't flap quite right, over something that flaps better. Because you don't look at everybody's mouth when you're talking, and I want tight flap, but at the same time, if it flows real nice and it works and it's not going to work any other way, who doesn't want a tight flap?
Well, there's the 3 things. It's the most important is what you say, then it's how you say it, and then it's the flap.
Sure.
They're all important, okay? You don't want to come from theater looking dumb. But what you say, writing, content, how you say it, acting, and then the flap is third. But like, same thing with this self-directing. I direct myself and record myself all the time, every week. And that's the thing, I think, like Richard was
same. I'm just so used to it. Like, I've done it for so long, I'm totally comfortable doing it. I don't cast myself in lead roles in things that, you know, I'm directing, but I get cast in lead roles in things that I'm directing sometimes. Yeah, well, and you know what? I don't have a problem with that. Because, you know, but the one thing that I do is I go last. I record everybody else first. And then I go in there, and then I just act, I react, I work with them. And then, in some sense, they're directing my performance. You know? So, that's what
do auditions? Do you guys do auditions like when you travel and stuff like that? You do that?
Yeah.
That's some.
Okay, well, you have to self-direct on that, don't you?
Sure, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's
When you go in
so...
the booth, you do an audition, even when you go in the booth audition, sometimes the director doesn't give you anything.
Yeah.
You have to self-direct.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem doing that. I'm very comfortable doing everything that you've ever heard me do in Pokemon. I directed and recorded myself. But the other thing is also a lot of the producers that I work with, I have good relationships with them. And sometimes if it's a more demanding role or a bigger role, I'll be like, hey man, just make sure you know, just feel free to be extra picky with me, you know, if I'm doing it myself. And, you know, the feedback's always good, so, yeah, it's all right. All right, another question, somebody.
I just want to say something real quick in response to what you were saying about, because I'm a stage trained actor too, and that's the way I was trained. But when I went to Hollywood and I started working in television, you learn very quickly that the directors don't tell you jack squat. That's true. And it's your ass on the screen, so you better come up with something.
What kind of TV were you making?
I was doing
With your ass on the screen.
It's not the kind of stuff you work on. You know, seriously, it's you up there, and you have to self-direct, and you know, almost as an actor, you have to have some of that. You have to have some of that. You have to be aware of what you're doing because you can't rely on everybody. Sometimes, and I hate to say it, it's like a handful of directors that will really bring a great performance out of you and really bring you up a few notches. And those are great directors, but those are far and few between. The rest of them, you really have to kind of know what you're doing so you don't look like crap up there, or sound like crap. That's depending on what you're doing.
Yeah, I've certainly worked with some directors where it might as well be self-directed.
Do you guys get frustrated when a director makes you sound crappy? Like there's one director I work with that I don't work with anymore, we'll go nameless, but he knows what I'm talking
His
about.
initials are?
KIP. And that's not initials, that's his first name. And I started working for him because I was like, he's so far gone and does not care about the work, and doesn't care about the quality of the work. I'm just like, you're making me sound like crap and ruining my career slowly because my work's out there, copies, people listen to it, and I'll take the blame. It's rare the director takes the blame.
That's right. I want to add something to that, very important. I always add this in directing panels.
Yeah.
If you have a problem, and I say this on directing panels, and I've actually had directors argue with me, if you have a problem with the performance in any dub that I have directed, do not blame that actor. You blame me because every decision is finally by me.
You can say that, but they do blame me.
They do blame you.
No, I know. No, and we had a really bad example of that. I had an actress, Carly, in the Armadillo Brothers. The character goes from almost like a got a good voice, but this girl can't act. She's horrible. She's flat. She's wooden. Everything I had her do. Well, of course, somebody said, well, this is being said about you online. And I never read anything online.
Good idea.
And she called me just sobbing and begging me to reach out. And she was a new actress. And I'm like, sweetie, you've worked with me on the stage for years. And you trust me. I said, please trust me on this. Well, then Volume 2 came out and everyone's like, oh my God, she's amazing. And it was the exact same people that were bitching.
Yeah.
And so from that point on,
Damn you fans.
So I've always said on any directing panel, no, it's not the majority that are going to hear it. But if you have a problem with an actor's performance, yes.
Yeah.
I took so much heat for, you know, I came in after Billy Zane did Kingdom Hearts, so I replaced him in that. And I had to do it the way the director told me to do it. And I got so much heat from the fans about it. And then when I read their complaints, I came back and I just did it the way I wanted to do it. Now people love it, but it's, you know, I was directed to do it a certain way, but I got the heat.
Do you know what? I wanted to bring one of my biggest pet peeves as a director / actor from the actor's perspective. I don't know if you guys do this or not. As a director, as an actor, I don't want to know what you think of it. I just want to know what you want.
Thank you.
So if I, for example, if I do a line read and they go, well, that sounds whiny, and I don't think it sounds whiny, well, here we are on a map. I think I'm here, you think I'm there. now I'm pissed off because I don't know where I need you to go, and now you're communication-wise. So when you're directing someone, to me, it's important to say, tell me what you want, not what you think of it, because I don't give a crap what you think of it.
Okay, I misunderstood what you were saying.
Oh,
I
okay.
work with directors, and I think all of us here do not fall into this category.
Yeah, it drives me crazy as an actor.
I've worked with directors that have literally, I've gone in, and as an actor, I ask the director a lot of questions. I like what Tom said. You give the actor all the background they need, and then let them roll.
Yeah.
I've worked with directors, thank God, none of them are working in the industry anymore. But I've said, okay, I don't understand what's going on here. And the director said, I don't know, I haven't watched this yet.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Walking into sessions and they're like, so what's happening here? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't seen this yet. When you're the actor, especially being the actor in a dub, you know, where you only see your character's scenes and lines. So sometimes if they don't give it to you, you're not going to know what the hell's going on in the show. Yeah. But that's also a thing slightly different as an actor. You got to have the presence of mind to ask. If they're not telling you and you feel unsupported, you got to be like, wait, excuse me, who is this person that I'm talking to and why am I saying this?
Yeah, some directors don't even want to begrudge you that, because I ask a lot of questions too. Like, I don't know, and that's why I don't work with that other guy. I'm like, right, we're going to do this right. We are going to do it right, or I'm not doing it.
It's like you could come in and say, hi, have a seat. Now, maybe your sister was just killed in a plane crash or something. You would say that line a little differently. Or you just won the lottery. You would say that line a little differently.
You had a crush on whoever you're talking to.
That's right. Or or your colostomy bag broke. I mean, whatever is happening in the scene, it helps you deliver the line and know what's going on.
I've had a director one time, another one who's no longer working, and I kid you not, pardon me if there's anyone underage, but I've had a director who's worked for a long time. I would come in and he'd go, okay, it's just a piece of crap, just get in there and knock this out. And my thought has always been, as a director, your job, theater, film, ADR, I don't care. Your job as a director is to excite and inspire your cast.
You're the captain of the ship.
Exactly. And if you say, well, this is a piece of crap, how am I as an actor supposed to feel good about what I need to do if the director doesn't care? And when you were talking down there about directors not caring, I was like, amen.
The director sets the tone. That's the
Absolutely.
whole thing. If the director is a grumpy pain in the butt, then it's not going to, your work is going to suffer, So that's why we always try to be pleasant. I always try to have fun when I'm directing the actors so that they feel good. And the reason is, people go, well, you have a lot of fun in there. I go, yeah. The reason is because the actors feel more comfortable. When the actors are more comfortable, they're going to be more creative.
You're absolutely right.
I've seen directors yell at actors, and I'm going, why are you yelling at actors? Because all you're going to do is shut them down.
Yeah, I walk home and director yells at me, I went home.
Yeah, it's a very social job, and especially a lot of us, it's great, because I mean, listen, some days, you work and it does feel like you got run over by a truck because it's, rough schedules and you're dealing with stuff. But some days it's like that you were hanging out with your friends all day, I have to work with people like Sean. Sean is my friend, so that way, at work, we'll work together and it's like you're hanging out, so that is, and that something also for me, I chat people up a bunch usually before we get started. And just to kind of get everybody loose and, and kind of, just set a comfortable tone. And then, okay, now let's get to work,
Yeah, when I get to play in the booth between takes, I come up with such better stuff, and I have some directors that just don't want me to do it. And it's part of my creative process, like not wearing my shoes. It's these organic things that I do that make me feel like I'm in the sandbox, And then I let the director rein me in a little.
I've worked with a couple of directors, and I love this method of working. One was a director named Scott McLennan. When he was at AUB, he was always given B and C list titles. And any time I didn't realize until well after the shows had come out that they had been considered B and C list. And this is something that I took with me. He was my first producer, was my mentor producer. Every show Scott worked on, when you came into the studio to work with him, you were absolutely convinced you were working on the best and the most important show that studio had coming up, and he treated everything that went out of the door with his name on it like it was the most important thing the studio was coming up, and that is infectious to an actor.
Totally.
You couldn't ask him a question that he couldn't answer.
Totally.
It absolutely is. To kind of generalize about what you're saying, I absolutely agree. I mean, ultimately what you're doing is creative, and as a creative mind, it is your responsibility to make something out of what you're given. No, not everything you're going to work on as a director is going to be, the Iceman comment or Death of a Salesman. No, but it's your responsibility to find something about the project or the process or the people you get to work with that makes it fun and worth everyone's while. Otherwise, you're simply in the wrong business.
Right.
You're expecting everything else to do the work you should be doing, which is using your imagination to get yourself, not expecting everything to just fall in your lap. Does that make sense? I mean, that's exactly what I think.
I personally love being a crappy show because I love the challenge of making a crappy show awesome.
Yeah, right. It's like, this is going to be great. And now we're going to make this even, this is not going to suck now,
Yeah, the great shows are easy to direct.
They're awesome. The writing's great. Like, I can do this really. But the crappy ones, you're like, how can we make this awesome? And that's when you get to be really great. So,
Yeah.
And next question.
I'm going to let somebody else pick because I'm okay.
I don't like it. Oh, he's waving his hand up. That's gonna pick young guy.
Yeah, waving hands
He
works.
was doing this.
Okay, I just have a workflow question. DSLR that color samples at 420 versus, a legitimate camcorder that samples at 422. Does that matter? Color sampling, Final Cut versus the Avid. Does that matter?
Oh, do you know what panel this is?
This is an audio. This is voiceover direction.
No, yeah, it's just more about voice direction.
This is audio, not and talking about video stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, no video.
No, well, there's video, but we aren't in charge of that. We just.
I mean, if we're talking about stuff specific to anime, some dude in Japan did that. You know what I mean?
We're just doing the audio.
We're talking about working with the actors, voice direction, that kind of thing. I mean,
We don't handle the video.
Okay, then I'll switch my question a little bit then.
I can talk about audio.
Yeah, audio. What makes, if I want to get into be a voice actor, what is it besides pounding the pavement? Can you do anything to prepare?
Become an actor first.
You be an actor, yeah.
Any
regular
acting training you can get is the operative word in voice acting is not voice. It is acting.
Absolutely.
And
most, I don't know that I know anyone who is only a voice actor.
No.
Everyone that I know that is on this panel has done more than just voice acting, also stage acting and on camera, and is striving to continue to do all of those things.
Yeah.
Because, and I've said this many times, but if you want to be in the entertainment industry, you cannot limit yourself to just one thing. You really need to know.
Unless you're independently wealthy.
Right.
But that's still free, because those other things feed into other things.
any chance you can get to act, any chance you can get to study with someone, any chance you can get to learn a new skill as an actor, definitely voice classes help. I absolutely recommend improvisation training. Anything you can get that will serve you. And then it is a matter of sometimes a good break. I mean, we've all been very lucky to kind of fall fast backwards into something that was a unique fit.
True.
But all of us have worked,
So it's-
extensively in many other mediums of performance.
Did it start out like a part-time job because you couldn't you didn't bring enough money in just voice acting?
It's still a part-time job.
Yeah.
It's still
And the misconception about voice acting is that we make a ton of money. We're voice actors. We make less than the lady who says welcome to Walmart, and she gets benefits.
Yeah, Sean and I talked about this on Friday in our panel, sort of
Yeah, I
the
missed
scared straight thing about the voice acting. And that's, listen, for a lot of the non-union stuff, you get paid hourly, okay? And the hourly can be very good, especially if you look at that hourly as if you got it 40 hours a week. I'm making a ton of money, but you don't. You get it for an hour, or 2 hours, or whatever.
A week or possibly.
Yeah, the lead, like Ash in Pokemon, it only takes 2 to 3 hours per episode to record that dialogue. Okay?
One or two episodes a week.
And that's it. Even if you're in like an original union cartoon, and I'm not even talking about because if it's a foreign dubbing contract, forget it, that pay stinks. But even if you get like a union day rate, let's say you make about $1,000 a day on the thing, right? How many days are you gonna work? How many episodes are there? Not everything, like Pokemon is 52 episodes every season, it's like every week there's new one. But most original cartoon series, there's 13. Or maybe 26, you know what I mean? So it's a great gig and it's a nice piece of the pie, but it is not the whole pie. Unless, if you're Nancy Cartwright, you're playing Bart Simpson, that's a different story. She earned her way up there,
Yeah, they didn't start that.
And tied into that, you also, especially people that want to be voice actors, you have to be very careful in our industry and in our occupation that are so ready to scam you and sell you a backdoor into the industry. And what that is someone who is looking at you as their own personal ATM machine. And second, I teach acting. I'm a guest artist with 9 different schools in Houston. I teach acting. I don't teach voice acting. I don't. And I maybe could, but right now, with the state the industry is in, it is harder now to get work to become a voice actor for someone new than it's ever been in years. Because there's, especially for anime, because there's less and less work coming out because obviously because of the BitTorrent taking down the production shutdowns in Japan. I mean, so many studios in Japan closed. And here's the thing, I will just say this. Let's say you're a brand new voice actor. Let's say you had a very low-key voice. Well, as a producer, am I going to take a risk on you, who is an unknown quantity, who we don't know, when Richard might be available, or Michael might be available? When there you've got an actor with a proven track record that they can come in, they can get the job done, they can do the job really well. So now that there's a lot less work overall in everywhere, it is harder and harder for new people to get in. It used to be a point when it would be hard to book someone like Richard or Brina or Tom or any of us because we're all working so much. A couple of years ago, now we've all got a lot of free time to work. So all of a sudden these people that you may not have been able to get in the past are very easy to get. And so that makes it harder and harder. I say if you've got a dream of something, don't ever give up on it. Hold on to any dream you have with both hands. But you have to approach it realistically. You have to get any amount of training that you can.
Well, I want to add to that though, because I agree with you about, and I like to inspire for dreams, and I like to tell a story, but I'm not going to do it too long. There is a point where you need to realistically decide if you're not good at it anymore. And there's a couple voice actors I know in New York, and I'll go nameless, and they love it, and they try so hard, and they come in, and they're just terrible, and they don't get any better. And they go, shouldn't you doing this? And I want to say, follow your dream, and then part wants to go, you're just not good at this. And they're really bad, and they have to figure it out themselves to whether or not they're good at it. Because some people love it and don't realize that they're just not getting any better, and they're not getting any work over a period of time. Yeah, well,
and encourage people to be honest with you. There was a girl that we know, and a couple we may know, I don't know, who really wanted to be a voice actress. She really wanted to be. In fact, she was going to be the next Monica Rial, and she left med school. And her fiance moved to Houston to be a voice actress, to be the next Monica Rial. And no one in her life, no family member, no friend, no fiance, had the guts to tell her that she had such a horrific speech impediment list. And so she came in, and of course her audition at ADB was with one of the smartest directors they had. And all he did was laugh. Oh yeah, we'll be seeing you. And he didn't laugh in her face. But she gave up med school. She gave up her fiance to come. And it was because nobody said, sweetie, maybe you could, but you need to get some speech therapy.
Yeah.
You need to get rid of this. Because if this is all you've got, that's the only one character you're going to be able to play.
You know, my attitude for voice acting is that I just keep doing it and keep hiring me.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't judge it enough to go, I'm so great, I'm going to keep going. I'm like, if I keep getting hired, I guess I must be good at this. That's kind of how I look at it.
Well, that brings us back to what Chris was saying. The thing is, you need to really train like an athlete trains for the Olympics. You need to be the best actor you can be, because when you do go in that booth for the first time, nobody knows who you are, and you suck, they'll never ask you back. So when you have that opportunity, you better be prepared.
Yeah, because we always say that, it's always, being in the right place at the right time. But if you're in that right place at the right time and you don't have the skills and the training, you've wasted that opportunity.
Yes.
Because that may be the only one that you will ever get.
Also, and I've had this happen in auditions too, and I'm sure probably everybody else here has. If someone comes into audition for me, and I tend to see a lot of new people because I love bringing people, trying to get fresh talent. But I cannot tell you how many times I have been in an audition situation, and I said, okay, I need you to read this scene. I just want to hear it in your normal voice. And they do their impression of Gollum. I'm like, okay, cool, you can do the Andy Serkis thing. Let's go. And I just said, well, hear it in your own voice. And then they read it like Cardinal or Stan or something. And I go through about 4 or 5 takes, and I've not yet heard their voice, their own voice. And all that tells me as a director, I mean, yes, they're trying to impress the director with
range and stuff like that. But all that tells me as a director is that person can't take direction and it's not someone.
Yeah, they're hiding behind this thing. They're hiding behind,
Right.
You know, they're not connecting with the material. And get people who are new sometimes and what they do. And this is a rookie mistake that you can't. You're not playing the voice.
No.
You're playing the character.
Thank you.
Okay, the character happens to have this voice that sounds like whatever, but you're not playing the voice. You're playing the character. And that's what you need to focus on. People who are, you know, because you'll have people who come in who are really great mimics, but that's not acting, you know? And, you know, you can, you know, being a good mimic is not a bad skill to have.
Sean's a good mimic.
But Sean can also act, and that's the thing, is that, you know, you're not playing the voice, you're playing the character. That's what you need to focus on.
You know, I totally agree with you, but as I was talking, I was thinking, you know, for me, because I do a lot of mimicry, and I'm lucky and blessed in the fact that I'm versatile, I like to fuse the two. I like to, the character has a voice, the voice feeds that, the character, and they kind of feed each other, kind of a feedback loop in my head. I don't know how they can describe it. And then they kind of become the character. But really, you're absolutely right, fundamentally.
Yeah, I have to agree with Tom. I think a lot of
what I'm
dialect, it's all about the character. Dialect is the secondary concern.
Yeah, but if the dialect sucks, it'll ruin the suspension of disbelief.
I agree.
Well, when you're
So they
creating
both
a
gotta be
character, yeah, when you're creating a character, I mean, you get that, you know, once you've got the voice down, you just put it in your pocket, you don't think about it. Because
That's
the
true.
way, when all of us speak, we don't think about exactly the tone of my voice, the way I pronounce it. I mean, you know, you just go, you do, and you act. And
But you gotta get that comfortable with the dialect or an accent so you feel like
Yeah.
you're on skin.
If you're doing something particularly strange.
You
Yeah.
just got to concentrate on the action.
Yeah.
And if you are strong enough with your dialect work, you don't think about that.
But
You
if
just
I
think of
need,
the acting.
but if I need to reference Robin Hood, Prince of Cheese, you know, Kevin Costner's British accent completely, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
So completely ruined that film. So on the one hand, it is about the acting, that's true. But if you don't get that accent or character thing right, everybody's gonna go, I don't believe this.
On a totally different end of the spectrum, there are tons of voice actors that literally just use their voice.
Yes,
And they're
absolutely.
very good.
True.
Absolutely.
So once again, it's not, that's a really awesome skill to have, to be able to use dialects and voices and all that.
You're absolutely right.
But you can still have a career just using your own voice.
Most of the stuff I've done, and you can't hear it now, is either my speaking voice pitched a little bit higher or pitched a little bit lower.
Yeah.
And most of what I do is my own voice.
I think for me, because I love changing my voice so much, directors have to tell me, no, you do something really great. Like, no, just do this. You know, it's my thing. But I agree with all my colleagues here. And there's a voice actress I know in New York who doesn't do nearly as many voices as I do, but works just as much as I do because she's just so freaking good. You know, and so it's good to have both if you can do it. But the main thing is always acting. I totally agree with that.
The operative word is acting. The operative word in voice acting is acting.
Because I will say this, in contradiction to my previous comment, if you're acting the shit out of it, then if it's really that good, then the emotion will be so powerful that the audience will forget about the fact that your dialect is crappy. If you're that good. But you gotta be really good.
We're getting there. We're almost
Bingo, dude. Oh yeah, we gotta wrap.
Any final thoughts from each person?
Well, did you have?
Oh, yeah, actually, that's right, I did. I did this, Eric Vale did this on a direct example we did not long ago. I told people to go down the table, start with Michael at the end, he had said, what is a trick that you use as a director? It's always nice to find something that another director uses. Like when I work
Give us an example.
like when I work with Taliesin makes it easier on his engineers. If you do a series of reacts, let's say I've got one reaction I want, I'm just going to say, give me 5 reacts, why? Taliesin will spike between each react. And I can't do much here, but it'll go, oh. And what that does for your engineer is create a spike.
Oh yeah.
In the thing. The one that I was going to say this time, the last one was working with a brand new voice actress, and I could not get those. The character was incredibly nervous and tense, and I couldn't get it, and I went, but hang on, I'm not having to worry about any sort of physicality. I just have to worry about what I hear. I had the actress, as she was doing the dialogue, press both hands together. As hard as she could, and it created a tension in the body that you could hear in the voice, and then it gave me exactly what I needed. It's like Matt Greenfield's, Matt always has people that like they're taking a punch or something. He has you go up on your toes, and as long as you got a padded floor. And so that when you hit down, what that drop does is it compresses your diaphragm in a way that you can't do on your own, and you'll get a sound that is a much more
Well, I
natural
wish I'd known
hit
that
strike.
after 297 episodes of fighting.
But what's something that everybody does? I just wanted to know.
It's a very general trick, but it's something I learned from Christopher Bevins, who's the first director to direct me. And the very first role I did, I was incredibly nervous, and I was so nervous doing it that I couldn't focus on the acting. And Chris said the most helpful thing to me. He said, "Look, stop trying to not be nervous because it's distracting you from the character. Just use it. Use what you're feeling right now and make it part of this character." And then, so I've learned with working with new people, I will get them to just look, don't try to convince me you're not nervous or that you don't feel how you feel or that you've not had a bad day. Just learn to own it and you will use it. That's the best trick I think I've learned.
Yeah. One thing I like to read with people.
That a lot.
Sean and I are working on a series right now, an Indian series called Shaktiman, which is sort of like Indian Superman. And, you know, and we do that prelay, which means we're not matching picture, we just record and then they animate to us. So, you know, if he has scenes, I'll read with him. And that way, you know, we're not just kind of getting these lines floating in space. Yeah, we're playing off each other, which is fun to do. And you can get more kind of, you know, neat ideas about the scenes and things. And something else even, you know, is in the sense of reading people in. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the movie Tootsie. There's a lot of great little, like, sort of actor trick nuggets in that. And when Dustin Hoffman's character is working with Jessica Lange, he's like, I'm going to ask you a question, I just want you to answer it. Don't think about it, just answer the question. And he's like, why do you drink so much? And she just gives him this really honest answer. And things like that, if there's a line somebody's having trouble with, you know, let me just put this in a slightly different context than this show. And just, I'm going to ask you a question, you answer it. And then you do that, and you get this much more honest read if someone's sort of stuck in a line. So
I think one of my tricks is, I'll make this very quick, is I try to keep my first initial direction is very long, then every direction after that very short to keep the actor warm and going. So it's like, take, no. Okay, do this. I mean, it's just one or two words, then I start the fresh, start going, the motion's going, no. I'm just tweaking and tweaking and tweaking. So it's like beep, 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 line. Okay, then this word, beep, beep, beep. This is after I've given the whole broad direction so that they're fresh. So if I take a lot of time between them, they get calm and then not in the state anymore, and then I gotta build and go back up. So I just try to keep that energy amped up and going. And that's the way I work with an actor. It doesn't always work for every actor, but for me, that's keeping them fresh and going. It keeps that alive, that energy alive.
Just a quick trick that I do. There's a bunch of tricks, but one that works a lot is sometimes an actor won't get the read the way you want it, or the way you like it, or the way you need it. So I'll just say, just record it, and then we'll let it go and give it 3 in a row. That's good. And then sometimes, you know, they'll hit it on one of the other takes, and you can just cut that one in.
Yeah.
I'll go for the music directing one, because I've had to direct a lot of people that are non-singers. They, having to sing, especially when you're a non-singer, is a very vulnerable position, and people tend to tense up a lot, which is the worst thing that you could possibly do when you're singing. So what I do is I will often tell them that we're just rehearsing the song, and I will record them while we're rehearsing. That's beautiful, thanks, we're done.
Lying bitch.
Anyway, thank you guys very much.
Thank you very much.